Hello, and welcome to part 2 of the Advancement Grant Application Workshop Series. I'm Keela, and in this video, we'll cover the scoring criteria and how awards are determined. Here, I'll also be giving some example responses for application questions that I've had to clarify most often over the years, as well as tips for writing panel-friendly application. As always, please download and review the guidelines in full before beginning your application. Contact information will be displayed at the end of the presentation if you have any follow-up questions. So, how will advancement grant awards be determined? Your submitted online application will identify the district's priority strategies and describe the activities that will be implemented. Applications will be read and reviewed by a peer panel that will score the request based on 5 criteria. The application sections align directly to each criterion. Beyond earned points, priority points are assigned to eligible districts based on data provided from the most current CDE reporting. Each area is worth a maximum of 16 points each. The first priority point area is district size, which includes 2 tiers. Tier 1 includes districts with enrollment between 10,000 and just under 20,000 students. Districts of this size will earn 8 priority points. Tier 2 includes districts with an enrollment of 20,000 or greater. These large districts will earn 16 priority points. Priority Area 2 is unduplicated pupil count, which includes students eligible for free and reduced price meals, foster youth, and English language students. Tier 1 eligibility includes districts with a student population between 71 and 85.9% unduplicated pupil count. These districts will earn 8 priority points. Tier 2 include those with 86% or greater of unduplicated count population. These districts will earn 16 priority points. Again, you will not report these numbers in the application. They will be pulled from the most recently reported data sent to the CDE by your district. Panelists will score each of the 5 review criteria of your application. Total scores for all panelists reviewing your application will be averaged. Once all earned points from review criteria are calculated, priority points will be added to the panel average, creating your total score. Awards are determined based on the funding formula as seen on your screen. Several variables could affect the final awards. These include the total number of eligible applicants, the total amount of available funding to be distributed by the ArtsEd Collective. Final awards may be adjusted across all applicants according to the available funds for the pool of the current grantees. Here are the 5 criteria which your application will be scored against. The full criteria descriptions can be found on page 8 of the guidelines. Note that each criterion is weighed differently. Take that into account as you're working through each section. Remember, as you're completing the application and responding to these criteria, the panel makeup does not include ArtsEd Collective staff who may know your district. Make no assumptions that district-specific details are understood without an explanation. For example, district-specific acronyms or previously designed programs. Also, if you intend to expand a program that you began last year with advancement grant funding, the panel does not have access to previous grant applications or final reports. Ensure that you fully describe the program that you seek funding for and describe what will be expanded. If you haven't opened an application yet, you can find the application questions by flipping to page 5 of the application instructions. If you are a prior year grantee, panelists will have access to the project description that is published on our website. This is the one that is included in your grant contract. But there is no other context setting beyond district size and the number of schools given to panelists. Strategic direction is the most heavily weighted criterion at 35 points. This section will give the panel an insight into the district's current state of arts education and give an understanding of the district's priorities for the upcoming year as it is tied to the district arts plan or other district plan. Read the criterion definition before beginning and as you make your final review of each question to ensure that you have addressed each point. This slide simplifies the narrative criterion into bullet points. There are only 4 questions in this section, with several ideas to cover. To earn maximum points, you will need to make sure you address each of these ideas. I get the most questions about completing the table in question 2. So I'm going to show a couple of examples of what we would expect to see in this table. The application asks that you briefly describe the strategy from your district plan for which you seek Arts Ed Collective funding. Each strategy must be identified as initiating, expanding, or preserving student access to arts education. District plans that outline these strategies must be cited. First, the table allows you to list up to 5 strategies that you're seeking funding for. You're not required to complete more than 1 strategy unless you're requesting funding for multiple strategies. Multiple activities may fall under the same strategy. Do not include strategies that are not part of your funding requests. This can be confusing to the panel. This table can most easily be completed with your strategic plan or LCAP in hand. Pieces of these plans may be copied over if in the right format. I highly suggest not including long narratives within the table. Because of the format of the table, long narratives are hard to read. Panelists are reviewing and scoring at least 10 applications. Keep the strategy listing column descriptive but succinct. There are other questions in this section for you to include narrative descriptions. The citation for the plan can simply be the plan name. It should include page number or section as available. In this first example, you can see the request was to support 3 strategies. Each is listed briefly in the first column. Next to each strategy, the plan from where it originated is listed. Here you can clearly see the first strategy is from the district LCAP. If I pulled up the LCAP, I could find it in Goal 1, Action 32. Also included is a brief description of what the action is. This is helpful context for panelists. In this example, strategy 1 is also listed in the district's art plan, which they also included in the second column. In the third column, we can see that 2 strategies are projects that the district intends to expand or grow. And the third is a new project that will initiate with new grant funding. This second example is similar and appears to come straight from the district arts plan, as noted by the nomenclature. In column 1, they included the strategic direction heading, as well as the specific goal description, and then listed the plan name and page number in column 2. Depending on how your plan was written, your response may look similar or a little different. You may have short descriptive headers or brief descriptions. In this final example, it appears these strategies were specifically written for the application and not copied directly from a district plan. But as you can see, the writer was able to paraphrase the strategies into brief and high-level ideas. If your plan includes descriptions that are too vague or long, rephrasing into a brief, more specific summary may be the best option for you. Moving on to the project plan criteria, which is worth 30 points. Responses to questions in this section should clearly outline the details of your project design. Think of this section as the roadmap for implementing this project and giving insight for outsiders to understand how the project will get done. This section is also the place to highlight how the district will support young people who have been historically underserved participate in this proposed project. This project plan should cover the entire scope of the project, inclusive of items paid for by the district cash match and grant funding. All activities noted in this section should be included in the final budget. I often get questions for how much detail to include in question 5A. You can organize this in many ways. This question states, to describe activities that will be implemented as part of this funding request. Here is one way an applicant has responded to this question in a timeline format of the funding year. Here, they have included some pre-contract planning and administrative tasks by the project lead, as well as project implementation tasks starting in August. Others have organized and grouped this question by strategy, like this one. Notice that they have included details like the number of sessions, hours, classrooms, teachers, to give the project shape and to help the panelists understand what will be taking place. Please note that SurveyMonkey Applied does not have text formatting built in. You may notice in the second example that there are bullets included. If you would like to organize with bullets, I suggest writing your response in a word processing application such as Microsoft Word and copying the text into the form. It will not copy all formatting, but bulleting and numbering will translate. The project evaluation criterion allows you space to describe the goals of your design project and how you will measure those goals throughout the grant cycle. Since the Arts Ed Collective focuses on scale, quality, and equity, you will also be asked to describe how your project addresses or creates change in these grant goals for your district. You do not need to create new tools for measuring your success. Remember, the strategic plan for arts education created with your coach includes metrics, as does your district LCAP. Other sources of data you have available to you are the Arts Ed Profile, California Dashboard, and the Arts Ed Data Project. You may include these metrics or create new ones specific to the project. Using these data sources may also be a great way to begin setting benchmarks for your project. Criterion 4 covers personnel capacity and is worth 15 points. The criterion asks you to identify the qualifications and roles of the named project lead, as well as any staff, district admin, or community partners that will be working to implement the project. For those providing instruction or professional development, how will they engage participants in diverse and culturally responsive learning experiences? Don't forget to specifically name the project lead while demonstrating their qualifications in these questions. The last criterion is worth 10 points, and it is fiscal capacity. For this section, you'll be asked to complete a budget form. The budget is the complement to the narrative story that you've shared previously. It should include all project-related expenses described in the project plan section. Please ensure that all project expenses are eligible. Remember, in-kind services or materials can't be included in the district cash match. The budget must demonstrate no less than a 1-to-1 cash match. If you have a project greater than $50,000, the district cash match will exceed the funding request. The budget form includes 4 columns to be completed per applicable line item. The first column is for funding request. The second, district cash match. Third, the sum of expenses for that line item, and lastly, expense details. Here's a great example of expense details for 2 line items. Here, we can clearly see how the applicant calculated the total expense in column 3 by including the stipend amount and the number of stipends for the first row. In the next line item, 2 separate expenses are included, described with the appropriate data points for calculation, and then divided across the 2 columns. As you're completing your budget, be sure to clearly include fees, stipends, rates, hours, sessions, etc. in your expense details. This will help the panel understand your request. They are giving points based on clarity, accuracy, and if activities are budgeted based on the standards of the field. If you have any questions about the information presented here, please send us an email at artsedcollective@arts.lacounty.gov.